All right, guys. So with Cincinnati picking at the 28th pick overall tomorrow, the question is, if they do select tight end, will it work out? Because right now the tight ends in the first round are Dalton Kincaid and Michael Mayer. There are also reports, obviously, of Darnell Washington potentially going in the first round, Sam Laporta. So four technical capable tight ends, but in all honesty, it's probably going to be the two main tight ends, Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid. So let's look at the history and how first round tight ends have worked out. So 2022, there was 0 first round tight ends. 2021, there was one. Name was Kyle Pitts. And he was definitely a hit, for being honest here. Even with a lack of quarterbacks in Atlanta, he has been an absolute vertical threat monster. And definitely somebody, once they do get a quarterback, who's going to be able to elevate his game tenfold than he is right now. So he could be the best tight end in the game if they get a good quarterback there. Right now, it looks like they won't because they got rid of Marcus Mariota. They're now saying Desmond Ridder is their quarterback. Atlanta's in a weird situation. 2020, 0. 2019, we have 2. TJ Hawkinsock and we have Noah Fant. Both of them were actually hits. TJ Hawkinsock was absolutely amazing for his time in Detroit and was actually drafted by Detroit very high, I believe the 11th overall pick, and then eventually traded to his division rival, Minnesota Vikings. That was still really interesting to me that they would trade inside the division. But nonetheless, though, even with the Vikings, he has been an absolute monster of a player. The second guy, Noah Fant, who was actually drafted by the Denver Broncos and then eventually traded by the Broncos in a Russell Wilson sweepstakes over to Seattle to trade over Noah Fant and Drew Lock to get Russell Wilson and a crap ton of first-round draft picks. He's also been a very much of a hit. A lot better with his time in Denver than his time in Seattle, but at the same time, it is what it is. He should be able to be fine with Seattle next year, as they do have Geno Smith back now on a contract, and potentially quarterback on the horizon. Hayden Hurst was the 2018 overall pick, and I'm going to give him a meh. The meh. The reason why is because this, right? He was drafted to the Baltimore Ravens 5 picks before Lamar Jackson was picked. The Baltimore Ravens in that draft also went ahead and took Mark Andrews. Now, Hayden Hurst for the Ravens wasn't really anything too special, as Mark Andrews was the dominant guy. Hayden Hurst was injured before he even got a chance to start for the Ravens, and by the time he got on the field, it was already Mark Andrews' job. So he really didn't do anything with the Ravens. Then he went over to Atlanta. And Atlanta, he had one really good year, and the other year he had some injury concerns. Then he goes over to Cincinnati, makes a home in Cincinnati, where he does have injuries a little bit of his time in Cincinnati, but has a nice ending of last season, and then went ahead and chased the bag and left for Carolina. So I'm going to give him a meh, because I don't think he really, in all honesty, ever lived up to a top tier tight end, but for what he has done, he has pretty decent career. It's nothing like crazy like Travis Kelce or what I think Hawkinsock or Kyle Pitts will do, but still a really decent career that isn't really anything to look at and say, well, that guy is a bust. He's not a bust. He's just an average tight end. O.J. Howard leads off our 2017 draft class with Evan Ingram and David Njoku. So O.J. Howard has been meh. He spent most of his career in Tampa Bay, and it really wasn't anything special. He's always been a backup. He's never been a guy that absolutely goes crazy. He's, again, an average tight end. While Evan Ingram spent most of his career with the Giants and then traveled over to Jacksonville to play with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which he is now being franchise tagged, and he is staying with the Jags at the moment in time. He has been a hit. David Njoku, who has also been a hit, he spent most of his career at this point backing up Austin Hooper, but again, a pretty solid tight end for the Cleveland Brownies. Nothing too crazy, but his vertical threat ability does help him out a lot. 2016, no first-round tight ends. 2015, no first-round tight ends. 2014, Eric Ebron. This is a guy that a lot of people was saying was a bust when he first came out of the draft, because he never really lived up to his full expectations that a lot of people expected him to be an absolute just dominant force as a vertical threat tight end. But over the time, he has definitely changed a lot around. I forget what team he is on now. I believe he is, if I am correct. Let me see. Eric Ebron. He is currently on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, so the Pittsburgh Steelers last season really didn't do much of anything, but season before that, he did have injuries last season. Year before that, though, 558 yards, 5 touchdowns. So overall, like I said before, a hit after a very good amount of time. He did have 2 good years with Detroit. We had 537 yards, 711 yards, then another year at 574. He goes to the Colts where he has 750 yards one season. Like, again, he's been a hit, but he's been just kind of ups and down seasons. But when he's at his best and he's healthy, guy's unstoppable. Tyler Eifert, and this hurts me so much because this was Cincinnati's 2013 first-round pick. The reason why he's a meh is because of injuries. If it wasn't for injuries, I think Tyler Eifert would be one of the best hits, not in Cincinnati Bengals history, but in tight end first-round draft history. He, in all honesty, is an absolute monster. He's always been an absolute monster. He just never could pan out because of his injury concerns. And he couldn't stay on the field. And you can't really ever be a hit if you don't stay on the field, right? That's really the biggest problem here, where he is still a really good tight end. He just could never stay on the field. No tight end in 2012, no tight end in 2011, and then in 2010, the Cincinnati Bengals yet again, twice on this list now, drafted a tight end in the first round in Jermaine Gresham, which was another hit. It's really weird when I try to rank tight ends on hit or misses. It's like hit or meh. The reason why is because not every tight end is the same tight end, right? We talk all the time, again, we got Kyle Pitts, who's a vertical threat tight end, right? Drew Sample, who's a blocking tight end. If you look at stats and you say, well, Drew Sample hasn't done anything compared to Kyle Pitts, well, for what he's good at and what he's made for tight end wise, a blocking tight end could have less stats than a vertical threat tight end and still be better because his job is a blocking tight end, right? That's what his skill set is. So that's why it's always weird when I rank tight ends, because you can't always rank them based on stats. But for the most part, Jermaine Gresham has been pretty dang good. 2009, Brandon Pettigrew. Oh my God. Meh. He was a decent tight end for the Lions when he was selected. Nothing too crazy special. He was okay. Dustin Keller, meh. 2008. 2007, Greg Olsen, hit. Now, it was a hit later on in his career. That's why, again, if you look at his whole entire career, later on, he became a hit. Sometimes players are not, hits right away. Not always a hit for the drafted teams, but they become a hit later on in the career. Maybe they come back to that team. Maybe they stay with their team forever, and they just eventually pan out. Vernon Davis, one of the greatest hits at tight end, 2006 in draft history. Mercedes Lewis, another really good hit for the Green Bay Packers here. Hall of Fame Pittsburgh Steelers tight end, Heath Miller, hit. Absolute monster. Kellen Winslow Jr., obviously senior, played for the LA Chargers. He was also a hit. The New England Patriots 2004 first round draft pick, Ben Watson, also played for the Ravens too, and the Cleveland Brownies, hit. Dallas Clark, another first round pick by the Indianapolis Colts, eventually played for the Baltimore Ravens. not the Cleveland Clownies. Hit. Jeremy Shockey, Hall of Fame tight end. Hit. Daniel Graham and Jeremy Stevens. Meh. I think it was, Daniel Stevens who actually had a couple years where he didn't really get yards, but he had a lot of touchdowns. And I almost put him at a hit for that reason. But again, like I said, it depends on like what his style was. And so I'm going to give him a meh. Todd Heap, Hall of Fame tight end for the Ravens. Hit. Bubba Franks. Hit. And Anthony benched. Meh. So those are all your first round picks at tight ends in the history of the last 22 years. It's positive. I mean, in all honesty, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 hits. I think that's a pretty good number. Guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys next one. Peace out.